Welcome back to Just Driven, guys. We're here with another Supra behind me. This one has its own story, so let's get into it. So the story behind this car, the client hit me up on email. Like always, I've gotten so many emails with like, hey, can you build us a Supra? The answer has never been no. It's always been, to what accuracy do you want this Supra to be? Do you want it to be exactly like ours? Because to get all those period correct and original parts takes a long time to acquire. After we get through all those little back and forths, he's like, hey, I want to do an aesthetic project, essentially body paint, graphics, wheels, wing, and just the stitchcraft, like seats and door panels. And we're like, okay, cool, that's no big deal. So we started like going back and forth and scheduling the timing. And mind you, he didn't even have the car yet. He found a car. He hadn't cemented the deal yet. We're going through this whole process. He actually started buying parts for a car he hadn't paid for yet. So he ordered a complete like refresh of the interior because he'd already seen the car in photos and like FaceTime walk around and realized it's the wrong color interior because it's a red with a tan interior car. So he's like, I don't want tan carpet, I don't want tan seats. The center console looks funky, the gauge cluster bezel looks funky. We had cemented our deal and like the timeline that it was gonna take, and we didn't even know when the car was coming yet. This is back in November 2025, by the way. I start getting orders for the complete black carpet kit, a completely new center console, the shift bezel, everything that he wanted to replace. I told him, if we're gonna do the project and do a full respray engine out, let's do all new cowl, hardware. Like otherwise, there's time spent refinishing that. And if you can buy it new, OEM, it's gonna fit perfect out of the box. It doesn't need to be refinished. It doesn't need new seals, clips, or anything. So we just get to disassemble the car, throw the old shit away if it's torn, and install brand new OEM Toyota parts. Huge thanks to Toyota for bringing back this heritage line that still supplies a ton of Mark IV JZA80 Supra parts. It's been a godsend for him because he's ordering new door strikers. The overhead console is brand new. He contemplated ordering a new dash, but he got hit with a $1,000 bill for shipping for an $850 dashboard. So he's like, my dash is fine. And we had to drill into it anyway because this project is now snowballed. He's like, I want the tack. I want the shift lights. By the way, I bought the CD changer. I bought the subwoofers. So now it's just like, we're getting into this snowball effect of a project. Like it always turns out for even our own projects, because we're like, oh yeah, we're just gonna do this and leave it there. It's never that way. Like even with it all spelled out in an estimate, in an invoice, in an email, there's always you're sitting there late at night looking on the internet and you're just like, oh, it'd be really cool if we just make it exact. And then you start adding the steering wheel, shift boot color, the harnesses, the roll bar. You see the things that you don't know whether or not you want until you keep looking at it and you're like, yeah, I want that. So the engine bay is gonna match the body just like it does on our car. We feel like the engine bay, aside from race cars, but in a street show car, the engine bay color should always look as good as the exterior color and paint. This is a factory twin turbo car, but it was an automatic, but it already has a Granis T56 conversion. It's got a twin disc clutch, built, forged engine. We're still in the midst of disassembling the motor to confirm the parts list that he was sent that the motor has in it are actually in it. We are doing timing belt, water pump. We're cleaning up a lot of things and the way that the plumbing was routed for the turbo. His motor already had a precision turbo, which matches our build and actually Craig's original build that had a precision turbo, but his is actually much larger than our turbo that's on our car. Now, if you look back on the dyno, our car made about 815 wheel horsepower on the dyno pack. The dyno sheet that he sent me for his car is on 93 octane, making around 560 horsepower, but he has the same size injectors we have on our car. We're switching over to a Link ECU, completely new wiring specialties harness, which we work with on every one of our projects. Huge thanks to them for being able to like alter and customize the harness based on which sensors we're running, where the orientation of the sensors are. They're able to accommodate for that. They've done it on both of our Supras, our hardtop and our Fast and Furious car. They're doing it on the client's R34 GTR. They're doing it on our R33 GTR. Every project that gets a new engine harness or chassis harness is Wiring Specialties. So make sure to check out their website, and hit them up for whatever harness you might need. Back to the engine, we still have to confirm that the parts are in it that he says were in it according to the seller. We want to make sure that it is all tried and true, because now we're doing new harness and ECU, and it's going to be on flex fuel, so it will run E85. He has the injectors to run over 800 horsepower. Now I gave him the option, like we could stick to like the power level that it was at, but the car idled extremely high. The idle motor had failed the moment he bought the car. His one test drive, that motor was idling at 3,000 RPM. So you couldn't get a true feel and an essence of what the car was all about. He couldn't really enjoy it. Every time he went down to neutral, revs were immediately at 3,000. You're sitting at a light and the revs are at 3,000 RPM and you're just like, dude, what the hell? This is just insane. That's one of the issues we're taking care of on his. We're doing everything very similar to our engine bay. So essentially his turbo on this, like the turbo's clocked a little bit to one side. Pretty normal and standard on all Supra big single turbo kits. But back in the day, Craig had his turbo like directly parallel to the engine. To avoid extra fabrication costs and parts costs, I told him, I was like, let's just leave your turbo where it's at. We can make a hood that comes off the compressor housing and then makes a quick 45, and then we'll extend it back. So that way when you pop the hood, the turbine compressor housing will be polished and clocked a little bit to the right. Your eyes are gonna go everywhere else in the bay also, so we're gonna give it that essence that it has the turbo hood covering it, and it's gonna be polished and all that as well, but it just won't be completely parallel to the engine because, like I said, he has to replace a lot of hard parts to do that, and it requires extra fabrication at the end of it to get it back up and running. So he would have to change his intercooler piping setup and his downpipe. We are already changing the plumbing of the way that his water lines were routed for the turbine and the way that the oil drain was routed for that. I didn't like the lines that were used. It's a very, like between 2010 and 2015 style of a build in terms of the lines and the fittings they were using. There's so much more available to us now to make this setup look super clean and on par to how we build all our other engine bays here. So new lines, new plumbing, make this thing look pretty again. Powder coat the valve covers. Like I said, hydro dip the chrome plastic coil pack cover and the fuse box, polish everything else around, do the blue intercooler pipe. And he has this massive, I think it's a 5-inch core Greddy intercooler. He has the correct intercooler, and he actually has the correct Power Extreme old school catback exhaust. So this car is gonna sound really true to the movie minus the turbo manifold design. That might skew the tone a little bit, but he has a lot of cool like old school parts. Like it has a massive old school, like the giant block Greddy wastegate, external wastegate. We're gonna have that rebuilt and make sure that the diaphragm is still good because we don't wanna get to the dyno and then the wastegate fails, and where it's located behind the downpipe and everything is actually not that easy to get to. So we wanna make sure that the parts are good and ready to reinstall when everything goes back into this freshly painted engine bay. This car has stock coils on an AEM, I think version 1 ECU. Back then you couldn't run smart coils. What they did was run an HKS ignition amplifier that increased the voltage to the coil packs to then increase the spark and like everything that the ECU needed to see, because when you're running higher boost, you could blow out the spark. The other fix is also run tighter spark plug gap, but if you don't have enough power to your ignition coils, you'll still have a weak spark. And that's all the shit you saw here is the stock igniter plus the ignition amplifier, an ABS actuator, and then like a pump underneath, and then a spider of lines going to the other side of the bay that then goes to the ABS module. All of that shit is gonna be gone. We don't have any of that in our orange car. And that's why like when we pop the hood, it looks so damn good. And the way that our wiring is routed with the new wiring specialties harness that comes out of the stock bulkhead, but it's a much cleaner, leaner loom. The car's still gonna retain AC, power steering, all its amenities are still gonna be there. But we're doing R35 GTR smart coils like we do on every one of our other projects. We always do those coil packs because you could literally get a brand new OEM coil pack at Nissan. You can order a brand new Hitachi made in Japan coil pack on Amazon. Summit Racing sells them. Everybody sells those R35 coil packs, whether they are OEM Nissan or Japan aftermarket or just aftermarket to begin with. You can get them on Rock Auto if you wanted to. So if you are in a pinch, you can get those coil packs. With the wiring specialties harness and the Link ECU is gonna allow us to clean up this side of the engine bay and not have the igniter, the ignition amplifier, and this ugly stuff of wiring that's gonna no longer be here. So of course with the interior, we're gonna go ahead and use none other than Stitchcraft Interiors. It is their logo that gets embroidered into the front seats. The car will no longer have rear seats, so we're gonna take front seats, front and rear door cards, shift boot, and that's it. We have a new fresh Sparco black steering wheel. It's gonna stay that way. Stitchcraft is gonna go ahead and take care of everything else. We have to paint the side plastics of both front seats because the car came with a tan interior. So now we have to switch all that stuff to black so that way it all looks cohesive and as it should, because finding those plastics by themselves from somebody else's seats is probably gonna be more of a pain in the ass, especially with the fact that the driver's seat on this car is electric. So it has the controls there also. We'd have to find either a manual driver's seat only that is black, then just paint the plastics on the passenger side, or find 2 manual seats that we can install. But the power seats, everything works on them. So that was tested before we took them out. We're gonna leave them power. Now, with the client, we're in talks of having Works Corsa recreate another roll bar. There's options of auto power. There is, I believe, a Titan Motorsports roll bar that's available for the Supra. I advised the client, like, hey, just a heads up, like, number one, how tall are you? So I could gauge on how close you need to sit, because the roll bar that was in Craig's car and in all the photos, like the roll bar sits so low, especially the main hoop. So if you're extremely tall or you need to lean back a lot, your head's gonna be really close to that upper main hoop. And I was like, I don't want you to be in an unsafe situation and then have a roll bar right next to your head. So if you sit in front of it and your seat isn't as reclined, then it's gonna be fine. And he's just like, yep, let's figure it out and see what works best, and I want it powder coated yellow. Now we're in the talks of like trying to sort that out and make sure it's gonna fit for the purposes of this build. It is getting some of the stereo equipment because he was able to find some other new old stock subwoofers, kind of like we did for our car. And we're gonna get a quote from a local stereo shop. This project timeline, prior to stereo and some other add-ons, this is a 6-month timeline. Finished, dyno tuned, ready to send back to Florida and be in the owner's hands. So we're really moving on this project. We're already 2 weeks ahead, so we have a gap right now for 2 weeks before the car goes into the body shop and starts getting fully stripped, prepped for paint, body kit fitted, which is why the intercooler is actually on here, because we need to fit and trim our body kit for this size of intercooler, because we don't have this same size intercooler. We have the one that's slightly smaller. This thing's massive, so we need to make sure that the body kit is trimmed and fitted for this front mount intercooler and that everything fits the way it should. Everything's gonna be as correct as we could, minus true Racing Heart wheels and a true APR GT wing, because a lot of that stuff, like I said, originally when we started talking, how long do you wanna wait to get all these parts, to be able to put them on the car, to get the car back? It could take you a year before you find the right wheels, because you need it to have the center caps. Then you might find the wheels that need to be rebarreled, like in our case. That takes another 3 to 4 weeks to get all the sizing correct, because you have a face that has its own inset and its own cut on the hub pattern. So then you need it back on the car. You need the car on the ground. You need the weight on it. You need to do all those things that we did in the past to get it correct. So as always, we're gonna go ahead and have David take care of the fender rolling and the rear quarter panel shaving before the car goes into body and paint, because I just don't want to put him in that predicament where it's got fresh paint or the graphics are on it and then we still need to clearance the fenders and quarters for the new wheels and tires, because we are going to spec the wheels and tires the same as it is on ours because it looks the best to us. We're going to be going ahead and sending out the parts that need to be powder coated, the parts that need to be polished, anything that needs to be cleaned up on the back end before this motor gets prepped and cleaned and made to look pretty again before it goes back into this car. Now the car is going to be gone from us for about 2 months, but we are going to be going over to the body shop and filming the progress, seeing any issues. We're going to go ahead and talk about the fitment of the kit again, because now it's us doing it in person now for a client. So that way we could show you guys, everybody's like, yeah, it fits great. It's just like your typical fiberglass work that you need to block and straighten out, the finesse, final fit and finish. But the first on and fitment is like spot on. So we're gonna go ahead and show you guys that firsthand and just get ready to see this thing in its full beauty, because it's gonna be 3-stage pearl orange with a refreshed engine, everything polished, all new Toyota seals, weather stripping, glass moldings, everything's gonna be new.